Once again, my name is Crystal Folks. I'm the Region 5 PEB chairperson. Glad to be in the session with you all talking about communication tools, automation, and more. A little bit about me. I usually come in from the comm zone, been the technology chair for Region 5, and so definitely love software automating processes. So as well as designing and graphics. So this is kind of my wheelhouse, and that's something I'm really passionate about in terms of how I contribute my time to NSBE. And so just something to share with you all why I like the comm zone so much. So what I'm going to talk about is the Google Suite for nonprofits. So in this workshop, we're just going to go over that just in case your chapter does not have that. And that will be a good first step for chapters that are still smaller or new chapters that haven't set that up or gotten that situated, and the benefits, right? Quick review of communication tools, how to monitor your social media analytics, how to plan and automate tasks for your board. And we have some marketing plan templates that you can use that you can bring back today that you can actually share with your board and start working with your comm zone to actually get that rolling. And then we'll just open it up for Q&A. Though we have more time, we plan on doing more workshops and we could go into deep dive, and that would be really helpful. If you have that feedback, then you can fill out the feedback form so that we can get more of those deep dive and we can get back into the mute somebody. All right, so we're going to first talk about the Google Suite for nonprofits. And so the point of this is to really make sure that when you have your board year after year, if you have using your personal email or using your company's email to do your NSBE work, that's how information gets lost between boards. And I think where we see a small chapter that starts out and they don't set their chapter up with this, then we'll see that, somebody had access to information or they had the 50C3 information, but now we don't have, now that person's left or moved or they, stopped working with NSBE or took a break, and now we don't have that information. So the Google Suite is basically you can make your chapter emails all uniformed and have an email that you can use, and it's free, right? So why not? So that will be part of why we wanted you all to push for Google Suites for nonprofits, because it's a free resource that nonprofits can use and it's helpful for the chapters to keep. And so year after year, I could just say, every year I just need to email president at whatever your chapter name is. And I can talk to all the presidents and I don't have to find this individual person, right? So that is the best way to do that. And it makes it easier for people to contact you, whereas like you just hand over the president email versus actually handling over this personal email. So that's why we really want you to set up your chapters this way. And I think it's one of the first kind of things in one of the checklists for the comms that's actually in the CHIP health report is making sure that your chapter actually has a chapter email versus using, regular professional or your personal email. So it has the Google Suite for nonprofits, why use it, product availability, the cost, and getting an account. So we'll go through the whole process just for anybody who's new to this process. All right, so the G Suite, which is the Google Suite, is a collection of enterprise-based products, the platform to help streamline one's business or nonprofit. It spreads the word of your mission. So basically, it's a Gmail account that is dedicated that you can manage your emails as an organization, as your group, and then you could basically use that and use the tools within the Google Drive, Google Forms, Google Docs, and basically use that to help your board run and be efficient and share material so that you can easily engage with your board members and as well as produce contents for your chapter, right? So the products that you get with Google for nonprofits is the G Suite, but you also get Google Ad Grants. So you actually get discounts to be able to do ads for Google. So if you want to get your chapter out there or if you want to do ads where you can actually you have your chapter advertise on engineering sites, right? That's one way that you could get your chapter more recognized in your city, right? So when have people pay to get ads on the bottom of different sites, and so if you have the right ads, that's more ways to generate traffic. That's more things based on people's searches. So just something to think about. I think it's an underutilized thing that a lot of chapters don't use that already have the G Suite is that grant. You have the YouTube nonprofit program. I'm not too familiar on all the details of that, but you can basically get some YouTube content, be able to do that so that you can provide videos to your chapter if that's something that you want to record something, or that's where you're going to put something, or if you're working like a banquet video or something like that, or you had somebody, like a student who won a scholarship, that's maybe something that you might want to investigate. And you have Google Earth and Google Earth Maps. So if you have an actual location that you meet, you could actually do some things with there, but those are just general tools that you can use with the nonprofit suite. We have why it's easy to conform the chapter to one email, address that everybody could do. It helps with transition. The biggest big win there is year after year, we don't have to go hunt down who has the information. Year after year, you could find all the files from back to whenever your chapter has been using the G Suite all the way till now. And then you could basically use that information to help you. So you don't have to reduplicate documents. You can find previous, constitution changes, all that type of stuff can be managed in your Google Drive. And then you don't have to worry about having to, keep all that information and transfer all that data from one person to another. You can manage your meetings and emails, and then you have a lot of cloud storage. So it's usually a lot of storage. And then if you want to buy more storage, you could always upgrade to get more that what you need based on the chapter's data that you have. Like I said, it's free. If you want to get the business suite, which has a little bit of a little bit more apps that are integrated into the G Suite, then you could use the business for nonprofit, and then you have enterprise for nonprofit, which even though the prices are pretty low per month, so it's not like it's a breaking the bank either way, but it is just something to consider that you can set this up and don't have to have a cost, but it is a good way. Yeah. Usually most people will start in this area, see, hey, we need this one tool that would help us, and then you go up based on what you need, right? So how to get an account. Once you have your nonprofit 50c3 status, so either you're doing it through under NSBE or you have your own that you file for, you'll have to verify that with Google, and making sure that you send them the EIN number, you have make sure that all your tax documents are up to date, and then you have that letter back from the IRS that's signed by your president or whoever filed for you. And so once you do that, you'll send that over to Google, and then they'll be able to validate that you're a nonprofit, and then you'll be able to have access. And then once they go through the verification process, you also get to volunteer, register for Techsoup. So Techsoup actually has a lot of free resources that are just kind of softwares and different like discounts that you could get for being a nonprofit. And so that kind of helps get you some access to some additional resources. And then they also help you through that process. So once you register for there and they verify you, you'll have all the access. What you'll do is you'll establish a G administrator account, and that's basically how you maintain all the email addresses. So you can create email addresses for all what you need. Then you can start migrating your data, obviously, from different positions or different people who had data on their personal email or however you did before. And then you could basically start using the Google Drive for the storage and also the tools, right? You have all the built-in tools where you can start making documents, shared folders, different things for permissions, forms. So you can really manage your whole board without having to pay for a lot of resources that, other applications that would happen otherwise, right? And so that's basically how you, so that's how you would do that for the G Suite for professionals. So that is pretty much how you set it up. These slides, like I said, all the slides for all the workshops will be shared. So if you have any questions on that, just let us know. And if you do have a question in the chat, or if you're in the process of this already, just let us know if you run into any issues, and we'll be there to support you. Right. So one thing I really wanted to talk about is we talked about in the last comm zone is these tools, right? And we have the email platform, MailChimp, Constant Contact, social media, newsletters, the branding, how do you create content in the website, right? One thing I really wanted to, focus on is a couple topics that I think chapters already kind of have some type of structure. They have the social media. What we really need to think about is what we need to think about is LinkedIn. I don't think we utilize LinkedIn well. And LinkedIn is probably the biggest professional platform, right? So when we think about how to engage professionals, we want to use LinkedIn more than we actually want to say, hey, if your chapter doesn't have a LinkedIn, but you're considered making a TikTok, how do you want to engage professionals, right? So think about that in a way that what I see chapters do is we do post and we schedule posts, but what we need to get in the habit of doing is making LinkedIn articles, right? So you need to maybe use your publications, your historians, actually say, after an event happens, let's write an article about it so that people can come back to my chapter and say, hey, this was a great event that happened last year. And so you have history about events more than just posting about events, right? Because it's like we know event happened, but what happened at the event, right? What is the company? We got a company sponsored this, and if you can find a way to brand something and then have it sell a story, that's better for your marketing and as well as helping your finance zone when it, like I said earlier about getting sponsorship. One of the big hardest things when I work with the DFW chapter is big companies will be like, hey, we looked you up, we want to partner with NSBE, but when I have to go talk to my leadership, they want to know what we've done, in the past. And we're like, yeah, we had this event, we do backpack drives or back to school drives. And they're like, there's nothing on the internet that says you did that, right? It's like there's a flyer that it had an event, but where's the write-up? Where's the story? Where's the something that you could go back, just like what companies would do is like you have to sell that as part of your NSBE chapter, right? So that's something I just wanted to pick out is make stories, not just only posts, right? So part of marketing is not only just posting, but it's also selling stories about NSBE, and that helps the overall brand as part of the strategy. So one thing also, we had the email templates, right? How often do you check your email templates? Either if you're using Contact, MailChimp, Sway, or even if you're sending out regular emails, update your template. Nobody wants to see a boring template. Nobody wants it to be not engaging. So update your template. There's free templates for all of the platforms. So I put some links here in this resource that you could go check out. And a lot of these templates are just like, different, you could do a newsletter one, they have different sales. So just think of different ways that are engaging. The graphics are there. So just update your template, maybe do it once a year, but when's the last time you've done that, right? So think about saying, hey, let's come up with a couple of templates for the different things, right? So you maybe a template for a new member that's not a paid member, right? You have a template for when you have an event that has a survey that you has the feedback that automatically sends, right? So that is type of things that you want to think about. I think a lot of the things is where we don't, where I see we could grow. And that's something we struggled with in the region, as well as I see local chapters bring it up as well as they don't get good click rates. So they think, oh, we're not going to send emails because members are not opening up the emails, right? And it really has to go down to the subject line, really. It's like, is it engaging? Do I find the topic for me to open up this email out of all the emails that I get sent to me, right? So I have some subject line generators here that are really good. And I actually want to go through an example with everybody in here in the next slide where we could actually practice. So this is a subject line generator, and I basically did an example here, but I'm going to actually do one live and we could just play around with it just so everybody can understand like, hey, it doesn't have to be difficult to make a good subject line. I just think if you have a good subject line and maybe there's different people that you could tailor it to, then it will be a good idea. So you could see that it could benefit the open and the click rate, right? So this is one I kind of use when I do a subject line. So basically, we can make a fake event and we'll just try to see what the subject lines that will come up over here that we could use as our headlines that we could send in our email templates. So if we want to do a topic, anybody wants to give me a topic and we'll fill one out, and it could be NSBE related or something else. And we could fill one out to see how it works. And feel free to come off mute. I see I see PCI tour. Okay. So we have PCI tour. So we're going down the PCI. So what is the desired outcome? Or what could be a desired outcome of the PCI tour?
Understanding.
So understanding what?
PCI.
Okay, so understanding PCI or understanding like engineering disciplines? Can we be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, understanding engineering disciplines, STEM, career ideas.
Okay. All right, we have get students to sign up. Okay. All right, the undesirable outcome. So what would be the undesirable outcome of this? So we want students to, so we want people to go to a PCI tour to understand engineering disciplines, but what do we not want them to do?
Drop out.
Okay. Rates in STEM. I'm going to be a little bit more specific here. So the audience is NSBE juniors. What do you want to say, NSBE juniors? Or just all students? I see Brianna says get students to sign up. Okay. Okay. Through 12. How many points in the context? So this specifically is kind of like a why explanatory. And the reason why I do why is because it's kind of like, here's why. So this, like if you were writing a blog, then you'd be like, here's why you should read my headline, right? So this one is just the points in the context, but we could say this is 3 reasons why. And for the helpful aid is, you can see the example here where the piggy banks is put in. It says these 3 piggy banks. So so the helpful aid could be this workshop, is it a workshop? What are we gonna do? So this PCI tour, is it just a meeting? It's a workshop? It's a summit? And if I put 0, then we don't.
Maybe you guys come off mute.
Let's say there was 3 sessions for this PCI tour, right? And then what is the seemingly inconsequential action, right? So what is something that you can gain, but it's not something that you would suspect to gain from it? Okay, I liked exhibits. Big, so we could leave that blank for now, but look at what they had. So how exhibits can help your understanding engineering disciplines. How can you stop dropout rates in STEM? Why you're not PCI tours. So some of them won't make sense based on what you put, but we analyzed 3 K through 12 students, and here's what we found: 3 exhibits that can help you understand engineering disciplines. So that's kind of an engaging way, and you could either take this, tailor it a little bit more based on what you're trying to do, but it helps you build the subject line so that you can get that interest of students and parents, right? So this would be one that I could take, and I could be like, the first one I send out in the beginning of the month is how to stop dropout rates in STEM. A lot of parents are going to click that open, right? They're like, oh, I don't want my kids to do that. And then maybe the second one is this one, right? So I could take that, and now we can gauge that audience, and now the subject line is more attractive versus just PCI tour for NSBE juniors, K through 12, right? So we think about it in a way that's a little bit more like, should I click open and open it, right? So that's just one tool I use to actually write the subject headers. So I just, I could put it in the chat. It's also in my PowerPoint, but it's just one way of just showing you an example of it doesn't have to be boring. You don't have to overthink it. There's tools that could do it for you, right? One thing I also want to mention, I didn't put it in these slides, but there's even for the LinkedIn post that I was talking about writing articles, there's actually AI tools that you could just basically put in topics about your volunteering and experience, and you couple a couple of sentences about helping engineers, and it basically writes the story for you. So I don't know if you've seen those where people are showing like they wrote papers for themselves based on this AI generator. You could write your whole articles about your events and your recaps, basically using AI, and it's going to create you a new article every single time because it doesn't plagiarize. And then basically you could just use it as your LinkedIn post, and you're not spending the time trying to write the copy, but you're just spending the time to use the tools to write the copy so that you can actually get that history and that branding built up, right? So that's what I would suggest you to do. And we could also have a deeper discussion on how to do like LinkedIn articles. So that's something I'm really trying to test out and to see how we can really do that and push that and help chapters really get their story out so they can get more funding. So if you're interested in that, please just let us know in that feedback form once we get to that, because I think that's a good topic to kind of discuss in detail. Right, so we have some social media, and I know I mentioned a little bit earlier about we do good at posting, but do you actually look at your analytics? So when it comes to the analytics for Instagram, I know that's probably the biggest platform I think we have, especially for our Region 5. So I pulled up our Region 5 and just want to show you how to get to the insights, right? So you click on insights here, and you'll see the people that you reach, right? So you see the followers and the non-followers. So we have an opportunity that we reached 74 non-followers between these date times, and you could always adjust these dates up here. And you can see your posts and stories, right? So you see more of non-followers saw our posts, but non-followers didn't see our stories. So they're seeing the post and they're seeing the story. So now we're gonna be like, how do we dig deeper, right? So we can see the age range, and then you could see the demographic of who's on your page, right? So now we could see those who follow, what are those age ranges of that, right? So majority are between 25 and 34. Majority are men, 51%. It's about half, so it's pretty even. And then you can see the most active times. And what's the important of this is when you're using Hootsuite and Buffer or Buffer, you have to pay more to use the analytics. But the analytics for each one of your social media accounts is already free. So what I would suggest is actually going into this, getting the best times that you could check by days. This is by day in the week, but you could actually check by hour. And then you can see when the most of your audience is active and use that to schedule your time. So that's the best way to do it, where you don't have to pay more money to just get Hootsuite to tell you this when you can just look at it yourself, right? So that's some of the data there. When you have Facebook analytics, you can actually check here for your pages. You just do insight and then you export the data. So I would suggest that you export your data every kind of month, check over it, go over that and review it with your comm zone, and then really figure out how to reach more, right? I think Facebook pages are having a little kind of comeback. I think it was very popular before we had truly Instagram and LinkedIn. And so now it's kind of like most of the people leave their Facebook pages to die off. But I think it's a good way to have a community because there's a lot of integrations between Instagram and Facebook that you can funnel a lot of new interest into NSBE or people who are already in that network, but they already have friends and connections with people who can bring people more into NSBE. So don't forget about your Facebook pages. I think it's something that is dying off. It's not as popular, but doesn't mean that it shouldn't get the same type of love. So look at the engagement, schedule events in Facebook. So if you have like GBMs, but put it in the Facebook page. Same thing with LinkedIn. Put it in your LinkedIn page, schedule the actual event and invite the people who follow your page to the event so that you can find more than one way. So instead of just sending out an email blast that says, hey, go sign up for the GBM, have your Facebook page that may have other people who are not paid members or expired get that blast, but they're still part of the page, right? So more than one way to engage them, because maybe somebody didn't open that email and so they didn't engage. Maybe somebody doesn't have Instagram, but they didn't engage. But now you have multiple ways to invite them to the same thing. And trust me, it will increase the the attendance for your GBMs or events and the responsiveness. So you can do that, and that's something that I would suggest. But the point here is really to, are you downloading all your metrics, right? Look at your data, look at the data across the platforms you use. There's ones for Twitter, there's one for Facebook, there's ones for LinkedIn. I think I have the LinkedIn analytics. I think a lot of people don't look at their LinkedIn analytics. So a lot of, 40% of people go on Access on a daily basis. So 40% of all the LinkedIn users are on their LinkedIn at some point in time throughout the day. So that's a lot of interactions, a lot of eyes that go on LinkedIn. I think that's one of our underutilized social media platforms, and we're not using it to the advantage, right? So when you post, it's not just reposting the flyers through your Hootsuite, but it's also making sure you have those articles, followers, visitors, making sure that you actually have branding. And so they can rank you and help you actually reach more people, more students, more engineers, more, D&I speakers, whatever your goal is. But as the admin of that page, you can really try to help focus and get more attention to your LinkedIn and to your chapter, right? So that's more money, that's more funding, that's more partnerships, right? So one big example is, due to our LinkedIn page for NSBE DFW, we had the Puritan Museum director reach out to us because they worked with us in the past in a last event where Carl Reed came and spoke at the museum and had like a Black Student STEM Day. So it's like, that's the type of stuff where he found out through our page due to a connection he had with Carl, and then found us, and because we were advertising. So those are the types of things you want to do so that you could build up, your chapter branding. So that's just one thing I want to talk about. And then we have automations. And so what I really am passionate about is the software automations, right? So we have a lot of software automations that I think people don't know that they could do. And so I'm always open to talk about how to automate things and make things run faster. So I don't want to do manual tasks, and I don't want anybody in your chapter to be doing manual tasks, right? So the faster you could do it, the less you have to think about it, the better. So one of the big tools I was a big champion for and I started using is Zapier. So Zapier has over 3,000 different plus integrations. And basically, you can pretty much automate anything. So you got a form, and I don't want to go back and go look at the data through the form and have to email each person individually. I'm going to set a form that emails my MailChimp templates, right? So we had a Google form that if you sign up for a committee, the committee form gets signed in, and then it automatically sends them a MailChimp template that's connected to the MailChimp that says the committee details and sends it a calendar invite for the committee Zoom calls. I don't have to actually do any of that process. So from start to finish, you have an event, a program, you want to get a committee, all they do is fill out a form and they already get invites to the Zoom calls. You automatically saved everybody on your board's time. So think about ways that you can automate the tasks, automate processes within your chapter. And so I've used a lot of Zapier tasks for that. Now Dallas DFW is, our form is pretty much tells us in Slack, hey, somebody signs up, it goes here, it sends them an email, and then we're like, they already get invited to the Zoom calls. We don't have to do anything. We'll just be like, hey, we just join on our Zoom calls and make sure that we're ready for that, committee call. So it saves everybody in your board's time, and you save, everybody having to do extra additional communications because we took the time to do the planning of how it's going to flow. So what I suggested here is, if you use Trello to keep tasks or whatever you do, Asana, basically find ways of, am I doing this process manually? So take a step back and say, what does it take to get from this point to that point, right? How many calls did it take? How many conversations did it take? Can we reduce that, right? So we use Trello, and we say Trello to submit a reinvestment form to our treasurer, right? So I fill out the form, And that form automatically updates my spreadsheet for our treasurer's annual budget for that year so that he doesn't have to go add that into the line item. It automatically does that, right? It knows exactly on the cell in the spreadsheet to add that. So he can say, okay, this is how much it went to this, and this is the line item. So you chose that in the form, and it automatically updates that. And he always has an up-to-date spreadsheet where he doesn't have to go and manually go into his treasurer, bookkeeping. So how do we automate some of those stuff, right? So if you do an Excel spreadsheet, you could do that with the Google spreadsheets, right? So those are the type of things that I think is a great way to automate some of the processes that your chapter does, where, where people find the time consuming, right? We have to have long conversations on, we had to meet with this person, then we had to sync offline with this person, and we had to sync offline that person just to complete a task, right? So if you know what it takes, you just have to really sit down and figure out from start to finish how that process can work. I'm going to leave this here. Any questions? I saw somebody come off mute. No? Okay. So that is one thing I use really well. And I think you could use that. It's not free, but it does help. So just something to think about as a tool that I think is really helpful. Some chapters, and this will depend. If I'm just speaking on my personal opinion, but if you have less than 25 members in your chapter, you probably don't need to worry about this too much. But 25 or more, try to figure out a membership tool. So we have Join It, or you have Wild Apricot. Use the software so you don't have to manage your chapter active list in a spreadsheet. As a membership chair, as I've been a membership chair, that's annoying having to go and check, and someone paid dues and somebody pays dues and you weren't there, and you have to add them to the spreadsheet and then send them an email that says thank you for joining our chapter, and all of that is like, why worry? So use a membership software. I've used Join It, I've used Wild Apricot. They both kind of function the same. They both have the same type of integrations. What the cool thing about those is both of these have integrations that connect to MailChimp. So more talking about, software automation is these connect to MailChimp. So they already make tags that says, hey, this person's active, not active. So I could tag, hey, send this email to all active members. Send this email to all corporate people. Send this email to all non-active members. And so that could determine the MailChimp template or constant contact template that gets sent out, right? So you could automate saying, as soon as someone sign up and become a paid member, which now I don't even have to do actual physical cash or check or whatever, it's like everything is followed through these. So both of these softwares have payment systems. So I don't have to, we've stopped taking anything besides digital payment. But if you want to still have to manage that and have to have a money box and have somebody have to have cash to do stuff. So we all keep it digital. It's like if you're signing up, pay online, right? So what I would suggest is it makes your life easier. So your membership chair doesn't have to worry about having to go and send out all these processes and keep up with all the new members who come in, or somebody you just get them to one link, they sign up. You could actually put your events here. Both of these connect to Eventbrite. So Eventbrite could say, if you have an Eventbrite event and it's connected to your Eventbrite, if you put it in there, it shows up for your members. You can have member invite only events. And so we do that here, where if you want members to have access to events or resources that you don't want the full chapter to have, and you want it to be exclusive to members, you could put it in there and use that as a way to better kind of give that incentive of paying dues, right? Like, hey, we got it, we randomly just give out $5 gift cards or vouchers to stuff, and they're only like, hey, I didn't get this email, and someone's like, are you a member? And then they realize you have to be a member to get those type of things. So it kind of incentivizes being a member, right? Because I think sometimes it's hard to be like, yeah, you pay your dues, but what do you get, right? So that's kind of one way we kind of separate members from non-members when it comes to some of the social media aspects, right? So we'll give out special goodies inside the membership systems. But like I said, if you're 25 or less, you can manage it through a spreadsheet. But once you get a little bit higher and your goal is to grow, then I would suggest moving to a software. And they're pretty cheap, and both of them have nonprofit discounts. So you could get pretty low cost for your chapter, right? So what we're gonna do is I actually have a marketing plan template that we wanna kind of go over. And I wanted to just kind of show you the template, and this will be shared with you, and I can put it in the chat right after. But we have a marketing template that I think would be helpful. So this is what Region 5 does. And so feel free to add on to it. But we have basically a morning, evenings. So you want to schedule what you're going to post in the morning and evening. So this is kind of like a monthly kind of quick daily planned view of what you're going to post. And so this is just kind of a template so that you can see. So you choose the date, what you're going to put on this date. And so this is so everybody can kind of get a bird's eye view of what you're going to plan, and so that everybody's accountable, right? So maybe not everybody's going to have access to your Hootsuite or Buffer to see what you're scheduling. So you could be like, hey, we know on this date it's a holiday, so we're going to post this, a Thanksgiving post, a executive highlight, a membership highlight, whatever we want to do. This is an engineering holiday, whatever that is. And so you'll basically fill this out as best as you can. So then you can figure out, okay, what is my daily plan, right? So this is one if you want to do a daily plan. And so you could have all the social media that you have. So it could be like, this is a LinkedIn blog post. This is what we're going to post on Facebook. This is going to be on Instagram, and this is going to be email. And you can basically put the topic, the type, the post, and a link to, the Hootsuite, or maybe there's a link that you need, or maybe there may be different things on the same day, right? So it doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be the exact same blast all across the same platforms. So I would suggest actually try to mix and match. Not only just think about posting the one flyer across everything. Maybe you do that for the first one, but this is the type. Excuse me, I think someone, Brianna? Oh, sorry.
Oh, my fault.
No worries. So yeah, so you have those different timings. So just think about how to put that time. Like I said, think about the analytics. So once based on the analytics, that analytics will tell you the best time for when you're to engage, right? So not just saying, hey, I just want to post everything at 9 a.m. because I just want to get it out, but say, hey, maybe 10 works best for Instagram and Facebook works best at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock when most people are on. So look at the analytics and let that drive the time, right? And so when you post, right, the emails, right? Emails could be like, hey, I maybe do the first email with different subject, or maybe there's 2 emails that go out that day, right? So just think about the different types. It could be a member, non-member. So that's usually typically what I'm going to show here, where you have a member, non-member, and then you have the monthly plan, which is kind of just like, hey, this is what we're going to do throughout these weeks. These are the blogs. So this builds off of your daily plan calendar, but you could just say, hey, these are the blogs that are going to go out this week, this social media, email, and this kind of like the hashtag, the SEO, right? So it's like what kind of stuff we're going to put there. So this is kind of some templates that you can use to kind of really help. Thank you, Seth. And then that will be a great way for you to kind of get started in terms of your marketing plan. So I think this was a good way to kind of just figure out. So like I said, this is the quick view of your month. Then you could go into details about all the media. So you could add more tabs here. And then you could also do your daily plan, which is like what specific time you want to do that at. So if you just kind of have, so maybe your full board has this, so they like at least know what's going on. And then, between your zone, you kind of just have these daily calendars, or, whoever your publicists are actually doing that, they can say, this is the time I'm going to do it. And then we figure out the best times, and then you go from there. And so that's pretty much some tools that we kind of have in our toolset, and I'm going to share that with you. But I'm going to leave it open to questions, because this is my last slide. And if you have any questions on any of the content, we could open to discuss, give feedback, and talk some more. But I appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully this was insightful. I think the survey's in the chat. Seth had posted it. So if you want to leave feedback, if there's a topic that you want to go into some more, just let me know. I love to chat about software automations. That's what I do all the time at work. So anything to kind of figure out how to engage better, help you all, help your zones. And this spans across more than just comms products. So just let us know how we could automate your process, automate your board, right? Because I think a lot of processes we take for granted, and there's a lot of time that we could save, you know, in to make that easier for people to join your board, right? We have people who, a lack of leaders who want to step up, and I think it's like they think it's like a lot of work. I think it's right after this. I think most of the people will be automatically invited to the professionals chat or professionals teams, and I think that's where all the resources will be. But just let us know. I think that's Arthur is going to make sure that that's going to be available. But if anybody else knows directly, maybe Seth. I thought it was going to be directly into that chat or the chapter teams.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay. So that should be there. I'm not sure if this content is already there, but I'm pretty sure it should be there before the end of the day. All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and we could talk. Definitely have worked with some small chapters, big chapters, so just let us know. All right. Well, I am going to stop sharing. Is there any other questions about content or how to do something or thoughts on a process or challenges they have with their board or? We have 5 minutes, so you can stay on and chat, go through a scenario. I could pick on some people. Has anybody actually automated anything, their board yet? So I'm gonna start picking on people. And, all right, so I see a guest. I see a Sonia. Hi, is that how you pronounce your name?
No, but close. It's Sioma.
Isioma, okay.
Yeah, nothing automated yet. I'm just speaking up, but nothing automated yet. But loved all of the resources that were listed out. I just started here at the Rochester NSBE Professionals, and definitely looking forward to implementing a lot of those things. My first big move was to kind of get our website set up on Squarespace. Definitely just streamline the process. Previously, I was in a similar position in the college and built the website from scratch, and that was fun, but ultimately time costs a lot of time. And so Squarespace, I would definitely add that to the list of tools for communication folks, because it streamlines the process, integrates well with Gmail and all the other tools that you might be using. And I know they just added like a membership management stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, so I've used Squarespace, we've used Wix, so that's also a good one that has those type of features. And we talked about comm zones, but it's find a website that you actually look at the analytics, the page, and you could also set up Google Analytics to your website as well if you want to just keep it all inside the Google suite as well. So something to think about. You could connect your website domain to Google Analytics, and that has some toolkits that you can use to look at your website traffic if the platform you're using doesn't have a lot of information. So like maybe if you're using a WordPress site, you may not have a lot of analytics, and you connect your WordPress site to the Google Analytics and get that information that you can figure out how many page views and all that stuff. So, and that's good information as well, because then you can figure out what maybe your social media posts draw to a link on the website where you signed up, and you can see the connection between what social media is driving the traffic for your membership, right? And so how, if it's a good thing, then keep doing more of it, right? So you want to make informed decisions, but you have to know what's going on with the analytics to do that. So. But both of those tools, if you don't have a easy, I wouldn't go me personally, not anymore gonna go the from scratch website anymore. Just kind of use a template that has all the integrations, payments, and all those nice features, nice to haves already built in, and then just go from there for your chapter. All right, any other questions? Any other comments from other secretaries from other regions? Anyone want to add anything? Or some call out of something that works well with your local chapter or region? Marlon, you want to see? I'm going to call on you. You want to? Is there anything that worked well for you that you want to shout out?
Crystal, this is actually not Marlon. This is Shari. Marlon is no longer the Region 4 Secretary, so I have his account. So I'm working on something.
Okay, Shari, you want to share anything that you noticed?
Well, I guess one of the things that I've noticed is that I think it's easier probably for us to catch a lot of our professionals on LinkedIn. And no, from a national perspective, our LinkedIn has grown leaps and bounds in comparison to our other social media platforms. So I'm definitely more inclined now to use LinkedIn for a lot of different things, because I think as professionals, that's where a lot of us live a little bit more and spend a little bit more time, because we're trying to build our professional brand or network with people. So I think LinkedIn is probably going to be one of the best ways to start to build our brand. And then you can search for people in your area that are, if you're thinking about local chapter, you can put in NSBE for a search, and then in your local area, and then it'll pull up people who are in your area that have maybe NSBE in their profile or whatever, and you can invite them to events. So if you're having an event, if you're having anything, you can invite them to your your LinkedIn group or whatever it is that you have as a chapter. So you can even maybe reach out to people who just moved to the area, or who maybe have been in the area and want to re-engage or whatnot, or anything like that. But like I said, I definitely think LinkedIn is probably the #1 platform for professionals at this point.
All right. Thank you, Shar. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the one we're not utilizing to the full advantage, but as I'm like, we need to post more articles, but
yeah.
All right, feel free to make sure you fill out the survey before jumping back into day 2. I didn't put the survey in the comms one, so if you did join the previous Region 5 comms zone and this one, please give the feedback. We would love to kind of figure out how to best support you in the future, and get you what you need, and we can help you. So thanks everyone, and I think it's time to jump back into day 2. Let me get that into the chat if somebody already hasn't put it in there for me. Let's go back.
Are you asking if the survey link is in the chat? Yes.
I'm putting. So if everybody could jump back to day 2 for the closing, and then just making sure everybody has gotten. All right.